I want to try to understand something here. In the case of Egypt, when there was clearly less violence taking place in the streets, the U.S. was hesitant, but then eventually called for Mubarak to step down. Why are you not calling on Gaddafi to leave?
Well, again, I challenge that. What you just asked me is actually, I don't think, factually correct.
Why you just explain
again,
why you would not ask him to step down?
Just as we have said quite carefully in each of these cases, it's not for the United States, to choose the leader of Libya or the leader of any other country. It is for the people of Libya who are standing up and protesting the policies and actions of their government. Ultimately, they will be the judge of what is happening in Libya. We are expressing our grave concern and alarm, as the Secretary's statement said yesterday. And certainly we can see that there is a contrast between the decisions made by Egyptian security forces in response to these protests, and the contrast is very stark between the response of the Libyan government.
There was at a certain point when the U.S. did call for Mubarak to leave, and yet at this point you're not doing that in this case. Why is that?
Kieran, we've expressed our concern about the ongoing events, and we will not hesitate to.
You are doing that. I'm curious why you're not doing the next step.
Kieran, I can't say it any better than what the Secretary said yesterday.
Hold on a second. When was it that the U.S. told Mubarak that he had to go? When was it that you asked him to leave?
I don't recall that we ever publicly said that.
To reframe the question.
So why?
All right, no, look. As I said, this is a matter between the Libyan people and the Libyan leadership. Ultimately, they should have every right to choose who leads their country. These are not decisions for the United States. Go ahead.
Today, the Wall Street Journal says that you guys had far more enthusiasm for toppling Mubarak, although you did not say it, as you have shown towards Gaddafi, who has repressed his people for some 42 years and has actually been, had several animosities towards the U.S. and so on, and coupled by a bloodbath that is going on. I mean, there has to be, shouldn't there be some sort of an urgent effort to stem that bloodbath?
Saeed, I'm not saying there's not. We have been in multiple discussions with Libyan officials over the weekend. We, as an international community, we are expressing our grave concern about what is happening there. We want to see the bloodshed stop. Our calls have been very clear and very compelling. I don't know that we can do any more at this point.
Frame the debate as it's internal things between the Libyan people and the government. When some reports talks about thousands of people dead, and part of the Gaddafi speech, I don't know if you heard it or not, he was talking about the violence has not been used yet against the demonstrators. Isn't surely the responsibility of the United States to stand up against the thousands of people being killed?
And the Secretary of State said, very clearly and very compellingly in her statement yesterday that the bloodshed needs to stop. We condemned the violence that's occurring. I don't know that we can be any more clear.
You could be clear on the sanctions. I mean, you could reimpose sanctions. Senator Kerry suggested that this morning. Is that something that's under consideration? And look, if not, why not?
Andy, as I said a moment ago, you tell me, what day are we involved in this? We are trying to ascertain facts, trying to understand exactly what is happening within the country. Right now, our primary focus is moving American citizens out of Libya. As we, Security Council is meeting today, and that meeting is also to try to gain as much knowledge as possible as to what is exactly occurring in Libya. As we gain a greater understanding of what is happening, we can take appropriate steps in line with our policies.
During Gaddafi's hour-and-a-half long speech, he indicated that he wasn't listening to what the U.S. or what the Europeans wanted, that he would be willing to die until the last drop of blood, and that he would then go house to house to try to put down this rebellion. How effective is the U.S. conversation then with Libya if he can go on television and say these things and make these threats against his own people?
Again, which is why I said earlier that ultimately this is an issue between the Libyan government and the Libyan people.
But how many people have to die? I mean, we're already
we don't want to see
hearing
anybody
hundreds
die.
of people.
We want to see again, go back to what the Secretary made clear yesterday, and she'll have a press availability after the meeting, and I'm sure you'll ask her what our views are today. We have said very compellingly that we have grave concerns about what's happening. We've said very compellingly that we want to see the bloodshed, stop. But as you say, the leader has his own views.
Don't you think the Gaddafi government is repeating the same thing what Mubarak did? And there were also, his son was there, Mubarak's son. Here is also Gaddafi's son, who is saying that bloodshed or rivers of blood will be throughout Libya. What do you think about those things?
Well, again, as I've said, Goyal, we want to see the bloodshed stop. We want to see the government engage its citizens rather than attacking its citizens.
Any concern about
The problem is that here you've been talking about how this has to be resolved through an internal debate in Libya, and that you want to see the government engage the protesters. And the problem with that is that the debate so far has been anti-aircraft guns and bullets and fighter jets bombing the people. That's the government side of the debate. They have shown no willingness to engage.
I understand that too.
And Gaddafi's speech, which you didn't watch,
I watched.
says,
I didn't.
Said that they're not going to engage, and that he's going to go. That the people who are protesting deserve the death penalty,
Right.
and they're going to crack down on them.
And
So there's no indication that they're listening to your message. And by saying that you don't know, you're waiting to find out the facts on the ground, you can't confirm any of these atrocities that have been reported. You've put yourself squarely in the camp of your favorite Western Hemisphere dictator, Fidel Castro, who wrote exactly the same thing and said that people shouldn't be blaming Gaddafi yet. I mean, you haven't come out and condemned Gaddafi himself for doing any of this. And the other thing that Castro said was that, I think this is along the lines of the no-fly zone, is that the NATO was preparing to invade to invade Libya. So, setting Castro aside for a moment,
Okay.
why is it that you're taking such a light touch with Gaddafi right now, who is clearly calling the shots and telling his military to attack people?
I reject that notion categorically. There is a Security Council meeting that happened this morning. There's a Security Council meeting that's happening this afternoon. We are going to respond as an international community. And I would just point to those meetings this afternoon. We'll have a response through the Security Council.
You just said, why is it that in this case you're going through the Security Council without and in previous cases
we're going through the Security Council because
Tunisia, Egypt.
It's not just the United States, but the international community as a whole is gravely concerned about what's happening in Libya. And we will respond with one voice in expressing our concern and demanding that the bloodshed stop.
But why is it not appropriate for the United States itself to come out and condemn
again,
or criticize Gaddafi himself for his activities?
I can't. The Secretary's words I thought were very compelling yesterday.